Hello, everyone, and welcome to chapter 104 of The Last Thoughts of a Busy Mind. This one titled We Want You. A play, that much of a play on that old Uncle Sam poster for military of I Want You to join up for the United States military. I think that was the poster. You know, the one he's pointing forward. Um, a couple of things. First off, our doing today is some Coke Zero, just Yep, Coke Zero Classic. And this is still part of season 7, but you didn't hear from my friend at the beginning of it. Um, yeah, I had scheduled someone, but that's what I want to talk about because even the absence of him right now means that I need to discuss something else. Um, and that is conscription. My friend is right now in the inductory stages of conscription. In Iran, there is a mandatory conscription for boys over the age of 18, unless they are studying, meaning they are in university, or they have a reason to avoid it. That reason either being they are the breadwinner of their family, or they have some sort of medical condition which makes conscription impossible for them. And I do mean it needs to be impossible because one of the reasons you can get out of conscription is being overweight. Uh, but which I am overweight. But in order for me to get off from the conscription, I need to be over 300 kilograms. I I'm not doing pounds. 300 kilograms, which is at that point I might as well be fucking. You can't move at that point, basically. And yeah, so for that you need to make it impossible. And the people who join these conscriptions are the foot soldiers. They are the foot soldiers, and throughout the current movement, current revolution, foot soldiers have always, well, to make a pun, footed the bill of oppression because it is part of the mandatory conscription. They usually are given a baton and asked to hit people by the superior officers, and if you disobey, well, they add to your mandatory conscription time, the time you need to spend in the mandatory conscription. Right now, it is 24 months, 2 years. Two of which are inductory, and the rest is just your service. One of the reasons I'm uh, going to university right now, despite all of my problems with it that I've talked about extensively before this season, is because I don't want to go to conscription, and there is tangible problems with not going to conscription. You can't just not go. You can escape it basically, but then you will not get a job. You will not get some many licenses that you need, including a passport, and you can't leave the country because if you are, well, the local term is mashmul, which means you are in line for the conscription. You cannot leave the country unless, again, you are a student and you will pay a substantial amount of money in holding, meaning that you give them a collateral that I'm gonna go, but I'll be back. A lot of people just give it and go and don't come back, but it's not insignificant. And the fact that people who do have conscription, they need to do this is, again, it's just another fucking tool of oppression. The thing is that I know we are not talking about personal stuff this season, but I've had the past 2 weeks have been incredibly mind numbing for me, so that's why I'm stumbling and I don't know what to say. is because without my friends to guide the discussion, and this being the second to last episode, and there was so much I need to talk about still, I don't know where to put it. But yeah, let's talk about leaving Iran. For the boys who have the conscription, they cannot leave unless they are part of an educational program, which, as I've said, has its own problem, and they need to pay a substantial amount of money. And recently, they are doing legislation over in the fucking Majlis, which is our parliament, that means they want to restrict the girls' um, ability to travel outside of country without a legal guardian's permission. Now, usually you needed a legal guardian's permission to get a passport. You need to have someone, either if you're a woman, your father or your husband to give you a passport if you're married. And which is, in and of itself, incredibly insulting, incredibly stupid, and incredibly oppressive. But they are doing it so that even leaving the country, you need to have a permission from your guardian. So, I want you to imagine you you're someone who doesn't like a lot of conservative or ultra traditionalist views of this country. I know it's so hard to imagine, but imagine you are one of them. And your family, on the other hand, is exactly that, exactly very conservative and very hardline traditionalist. How are you gonna leave? Your only refuge from escaping this oppressive system is to leave it. And they're doing legislation which means you can't leave unless that ultra conservative, ultra traditionalist family allows you. This is the exhausting thing, and I am still hopeful. There is still hope in me, even though it's slowly dying, but I am still hopeful. But here's the exhausting thing: they're doing this basically to see how far they can push. There is no reason to do this. There is no political reason for this. There is, yeah, as I said, there is no reason to do this. But they want to do it because they can. This is the exhausting thing. I'm sorry for the long pauses. There is no logistical reason for that legislation. There is no precedent for it in the Islamic law. There is not even the hardline conservatives before were for that much of an oppression, but because of the recent movement, they just basically, this is a patriarchal society at its most patriarchal, in that the patriarch is angry that you dared to defy them, and so they want to punish you. And there is always saying that, oh, again, I'm hopeful. They cannot remain for each one of the idiotic decisions. They're going one step towards annihilation, which, and they are idiotic decisions. There was a earthquake this week in Iran, in Khoy, in eastern Azerbaijan, in northwest of Iran. The government response was to spray the people who have lost their home and are right now in minus, I think the news I read was 6 degrees Celsius, by the way, not Fahrenheit or that bullshit. Minus in minus Celsius degrees. They are right now in that condition, without a home, without heating elements, without anything. And the Iranian regime's response was to spray them with water because they were gathering together to ask for, well, fucking shelter. And then when a Iranian celebrity started gathering funds to help people in Khoi, they blocked the account because it was unauthorized. These are idiotic decisions made by, basically, as I said, a patriarchal society that is mad you asked for something it didn't approve of. You asked for freedom, I'm going to restrict you more. You asked for freedom, I am going to make sure you all suffer. And as I said, with each one of their stubbornness and stubborn moves, they go one step more towards annihilation, towards total annihilation. But on the way there, more are getting killed, more are getting used, more are getting stuck, more are getting trapped in a basically limbo of when will something major happen that basically help them get away from it all. As I said, it's exhausting. I know, I've been going at it for weeks after weeks after weeks. I don't know how much more I can take. I am at my wit's end. It feels like there is no refuge anymore. And I know that's not true. There is always something, there's always a way. But it's exhausting. It's exhausting. I am ready to give up. I'm not going to yet, but I am ready. And all of this I said without even talking about the state of political prisoners right now. The people who have gone on hunger strikes, the people who have been on hunger strikes for months, lost 50% of their body weight. And again, do you want to see patriarchy? Just look at Islamic Republic. It's punishing the unruly children with the same condescending tone that an old patriarch might use in a Leon Tolstoy novel. I want you to know that it's important to remember, it's very important to remember that the effects of a patriarchal society are twofold. People think that patriarchal society means that, well, one gender over other, and anyone that is true. But it affects everyone because the patriarchal society is reliant on power. It's reliant on keeping the power to any means possible because the patriarch, in this case the government, which has a patriarchal role both in a sense of a legal sense and a religious sense, because Islamic Republic is by its nature incredibly ideological and religious. It's attacking everyone and punishing anyone who dare to disobey them. They want total obedience. They don't want compliance. They want obedience. They want you to think the things they think. They want you to do the things they do. And if you dare just think differently, they will kill you. They will jail you. They will put you on hunger strike. If you dare to criticize them for any action, no matter how legitimate, and by legitimate, I mean even environmental actions, because, God, I don't want to get into it, but there is a there is a big chance that the effects of Islamic Republic, not big chance, there is a 100% certainty that the effects of Islamic Republic is going to fuck us in the long term. The way they store nuclear waste, the way they treat the natural resources of Iran, we're fucked basically for a long time. And with each second they stay and the incredible quest for more and more power, they are pushing us over a cliff one by one. So yeah, this one is incredibly messy, I know, because again, I didn't have a direction, and this is the second to last episode, so there is still a lot I needed to touch upon. It was an eventful week, not personally, in terms of stuff that happened. There were blasts in several major cities in Iran. There was a massive fire. There was the earthquake, which I mentioned. There was the legislation, which I mentioned. There was the state of political prisoners, came up again because Jafar Panahi, a director, went on hunger strike, and another person, Dr. Oh God, why did I forget his name? I am so sorry. My brain is just. My brain is not working well at all. And Dr. Farhad Meisami, I had to look at my story. I should have written it down. More pictures of him came out after 4 months of hunger strike that made him lose 50% of his body weight. And their message is still wanting more freedom. Their message is still against oppression. But at this point, I don't know who. I've seen people, and that worries me, but I don't know who can reasonably believe that Islamic Republic will get better. That it is possible to reform this monster, this old withering corpse that held on to the throne of power. How can you reform this? I don't see a way. At the beginning of this season, I said we won't go back to life as it was, and I don't believe we will ever go back to life as it was. The fact is, even though news might be slow and you might be thinking that, oh, no, nothing major has happened, the fact is that even when the theaters aren't, by theater I mean political theaters, are not bringing in the subordinates that they want, that they don't show the obedience that the Islamic Republic requires, means that there is still something here. Their film festival is a fucking joke. And you need to be working in it to know that that is incredibly funny and incredibly annoying for them. It stings them right where they care. Because much like any other ideological system, they care about that image they have. That's why when Raisi goes out on a fucking stage and says we don't have mandatory hijab laws, even though it's fucking in the books. Because they want that image, they want that public image. and they've lost it massively. Hopefully I can upload this. Internet has been fucking brutal as usual, and I see you all next week.